Hello BookTube. For this Tag Tuesday, I'm going to be doing two tags. The first is Josh's Burger book tag. It was created by Josh of Literary Gladiators, who kindly tagged me in his original video. Thank you, Josh, and I will leave a link to his original video down below. And I'll also leave a link to the prompts down below too. So, let's begin. Prompt number 1, hamburger, which I am quite fond of, although just meat, bun, and some vegetables. If you were looking to get someone to read one of your favorite writers, which of their works would you recommend? I'm going with Agatha Christie, and I would recommend Death on the Nile and The Body in the Library. Both novels are quintessentially Christie. They were written in her heyday, and they are among my personal favorites. The Body in the Library is, I think, the best Miss Marple novel, and my second favorite Miss Marple novel. And Death on the Nile is my favorite Hercule Poirot novel. Number 2, Cheeseburger, of which I am not a fan. A reliably good writer. Let's stick with Agatha Christie. She is, throughout her career, remarkably consistent. She just consistently good. There is a bit of a decline in the 60s and definitely in the 70s before her death, but throughout her career, she was consistently a very good writer. Number 3, bacon cheeseburger. Not a fan. Although I don't think I've ever actually had a bacon cheeseburger. Anyway, a work that gives you a rush. For that, I'm going with A City of Lost Fortune by Bryan. It's a recent, about 3 or 4 years ago, it came out. It's a fantasy set in post-Katrina New Orleans, and features Jude de Besson having to figure out what happened to the luck god of New Orleans. And it is just a heady romp. I love the book. I'm hoping there's a third book in the series coming out. I also love the second book in the series, Gather the Fortunes. So hopefully there's a third book in the series, or hopefully Bryan has something else in the works. I haven't seen any updates about if he's got a new book in the works or coming out or anything. I hope there is. I love those books. Anyway, number 4, Pizza Burger. What is that? What is that? I've never heard of that. Okay. A favorite writer from your home country, born in another country. For this one, I'm going with Michael Moorcock. He is a writer of science fiction and fantasy whose heyday was in the 60s with the New Wave, and he's continued on since, particularly with his Elric series, which is what he's most famous for, although he has a number of other series in his larger Eternal Champions series. And I'm quite fond of his work. He was originally born in Britain and later immigrated to Texas. I think he lives near Austin now. Number 5, chicken burger. I'm quite fond of chicken burgers. Instead of reading this work or writer, schools should be reading this work or writer. So this is the prompt that caught me up, because I just, for the life of me, could not figure it out. So it's a prompt intended to say, okay, what canonical work, which is works that are being taught, being studied, would I kick out of the canon? And what work would I add? And I couldn't really figure it out, because thinking back to collegiate level, that's very much the individual professor's decision what they teach. While at the school level, the K through 12, I actually don't remember a whole lot of how they taught and what was taught. So I had a dickens of a time trying to figure this one out. But then it sort of hit me. I would replace, when I was in 7th grade, we read Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls. It's about a young boy who eventually works up enough money to buy him 2 hounds that are bred for hunting raccoons. They're called coon hounds. And he develops an attachment to his dogs. And I can't say necessarily I was fond of the novel. And I think I would replace Where the Red Fern Grows with The Phantom Tollbooth by Norman Jester, which is just this wild and crazy romp through a fantasy world that is highly literate, highly mathematically cogent. It's just, I love that book. And I am incensed with myself that it took me into my 20s or early 30s before I finally got around to reading it. I should have read it far sooner. Definitely when I was still in middle school, or even maybe early high school if necessary. So quite ticked off with myself about that. Anyway, number 6, Veggie Burger, of which I've never had, although I did see a recipe for a black bean burger just recently on America's Test Kitchen. Also with a black bean quesadilla, which I did make last Saturday, and it was quite good, even if I didn't have all the ingredients for the recipe. But what I had, it was still quite good. So I'm looking forward to trying the black bean burger at some point. Anyway, a work that encourages plant-based eating. I haven't read this book, but it's appropriate. Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. I think this work and his second book of nonfiction, I think, are both calls to a more vegan diet with an environmental and animal rights consciousness. But I've never read it, so I can't really talk too much about it. It just came to mind. Number 7, a blue cheeseburger. I've never had that. A pretentious work. I'm assuming a blue cheeseburger must be quite pretentious. Anyway, I'm sticking with Jonathan Safran Foer and going with Everything is Illuminated. Jonathan Safran Foer is somewhat infamous in literary circles, I think, for being, a bit of a pretentious writer. And I read Everything is Illuminated, or tried to, I think when I was in 2006, waiting in San Francisco International, the airport in San Francisco, and I couldn't get into it. It was just so mind-numbing. But I might actually come back to it eventually. I've long since booted it from my collection, but I kind of sort of want to revisit that. But I think it's quite pretentious from what I remember. Number 8, Bison Burger. I have never had that, and I'm not entirely sure I want to. Try it, that is. A work that tells the truth about the American West. For this one, I'm going with The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee by David Truer. It came out last year. It looks at Native Americans post Wounded Knee, and it is just an amazing look at the struggles that Native Americans have had to go through from the late 19th century into the 20th century and even to today. Number 9, Mushroom and Swiss Burger. What is that? Talk about a moldy book you own and admire. For this, I'm assuming this is a older work. And so I'm going to go with the oldest book I think I have in my collection, and that is an anthology or omnibus of novels by H. Rider Haggard, including Allan Quatermain, including She, King Solomon's Mines, Allan Quatermain, and a third novel that I'm blanking on, or fourth novel. There's a Dover, I had years ago a Dover anthology of She, King Solomon's Mines, and Allan Quatermain. And so I keep thinking of those three together because those three are, I think, Haggard's most famous novels. But this anthology has a fourth one that I keep forgetting about. Anyway, moving on. Number 10, Turkey Burger, never had. A work that encourages a healthy lifestyle. I'm not entirely sure turkey's quite match that. But anyway, I'm going with Solo by Anita Lo. So Solo is a cookbook written by Anita Lo for people who live on their own. Very often in cookbooks, the recipes are for significantly more than one person. Usually 3 or 4, maybe 6 servings, which is not necessarily quite healthy. I mean, yes, you can save and like have leftovers and stuff, but generally speaking, I mean, you're still probably going to be overeating. So having a cookbook that is designed for just one person living alone, or even a cookbook that's for 2, America's Test Kitchen has a cookbook, Cooking for 2, that I think both probably, while maybe not having the healthiest recipes throughout the book, probably, I mean, has it more to what would be useful and not overeating. Number 11, a pub burger. I'm not entirely sure what I know what that is. I've never had one. A 500-page book that is filling and engaging. For this, I went with Big Wonderful Thing by Stephen Harrigan. It's the Big History of Texas. It is right there. And I have been singing its praises since I read it earlier this year. It is just an amazing, wondrous history of Texas. And I wish a lot more history took his style and writing history. Number 12, Diner Burger. A work that made you feel physically and emotionally involved. So for this one, I'm going with The Last Son and The Hanged Man by Katie Edwards. Now, I know I have made a bit of a game complaining and criticizing these first 2 books in the tarot sequence, but I think my criticism is rooted in the fact that I am so passionately engaged with these 2 novels. Even though some of Edwards' choices irk me, annoy me, I do really, really love them. And I'm quite emotionally engaged with them, which is, I think, why it's so much more my reaction to these novels. 13, Honest Fast Food Burger. Never heard of it. A work with a great exterior but poor interior. For this one, I'm going with Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. The description of the novel that you get, like the quick blurb of Gideon running away from her indentured servitude and taking along her rapier, her dirty magazines, and I think the clothes on her back. I mean, that just, captures your attention. But then the novel itself is like, I found it to be incredibly disappointing. But I think that's because ultimately it kind of turns into your sort of standard YA sort of enemies to lovers in an unequal partnership sort of thing that you tend to get in a lot of YA. And yeah, and honestly, it's like it actually would have been a much better book if Gideon did manage to take her rapier, her dirty magazines, and whatever else she was taking with her, and got away. It would have been a hell of a lot better novel, I think. Anyway, 14, Shrimpburger, a lesser-known work about marine life. Now, this one also gave me a bit of trouble, because sadly I don't read a lot of science books, and certainly not marine life. It is something I do want to work on in the coming year. So hopefully some more of these tag videos will be coming out, and I can try to be catching like if anybody has any interesting books for this question. I'm going with Sullivan Octopus by Cy Montgomery. It's about Cy Montgomery's burgeoning interest in giant Pacific octopuses and her engagement with a series of these octopuses at an aquarium on the East Coast, which I really liked, although I kind of wish Cy Montgomery were a little bit more removed. Like the focus would have been more on the octopuses and not on her. Although it's not quite as bad as the jellyfish book that I'm blanking on the writer or the title right now. 15, Slider, whose short works are easy to consume and enjoy. For this one, I'm going to go with Robert E. Howard and his Conan short stories. Although a lot of Howard's oeuvre, particularly his more fantastical work, I think are quite easy to read. And although I haven't really read all of his work, he was actually quite prolific and rather multi-genre. So I haven't read any of his sailor stories or his boxer stories or westerns or anything like that. Again, something I probably should work on in the new year, if I can manage to pick up some of Howard's other non-Conan work. I have all of those. 16. What is your favorite kind of burger? To be honest, I'm not that fond of hamburgers or burgers in general. If I do have a hamburger, it will be basically meat, buns, mustard, lettuce, tomato, onion, pickles. That's basically what I like. Although I don't mind like a chicken burger or I would like to try a vegetarian burger, but it is very rare for me to have a hamburger, or to really propose having a hamburger for lunch or anything like that, or a meal. Number 17. Where is your favorite place to get a burger? My kitchen. Because I basically, if I'm going to have hamburgers, I'm going to make it because it's, But if I get going out to eat, I have two. So when I was in San Francisco in 2005 and in 2006, there was a place for, like, it was associated with or affiliated with Aid Services Austin, called Q, which was targeted at young gay men from like the ages of 18 to 29. And I discovered it my senior year of college, and so I went there quite frequently. And relatively near queue there was a burger joint, just a small little hole in the wall place that I would go to occasionally to get a burger and fries and a malt. I really went there for the malt because the malt was fantastic. But anyway, I actually did quite like those burgers, given that I did go there more often than, or rather more frequently than I would have. And then in Waco, there's a place, that place I'm pretty sure is gone. But then in Waco, there's a burger joint called Captain Billy Whizbangs, which has some fantastic burgers and, again, a wonderful malt or milkshake. So anyway, so Captain Billy Whizbangs, I think. Since I'm pretty sure it's still, no, there it's showed there. Okay, I'm starting to ramble, so let's move on to the next question. Number 18, who do you tag? If you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. If you would like me to tag you in future tag videos, leave a comment down below to remind me so I can more specifically tag you. Although to allay any suspicion that Steve Donahue smells, Steve, you're tagged. Anyway, so that was Josh's burger book tag. I will be back in a few with another tag. And until then, thank you, BookTube, and have a great afternoon, and stay safe.